Hey peoples, and welcome to the Christmas edition of the Zenith update. And before we get going, I'd just like to say that this video is sponsored by me. I have finally got round to setting up a merch store for Zenithfilms over on Etsy. Currently up is a few posters and the Blu-ray edition of Silent Hill Requiem. And to come will be a lot more posters, the Nancy Wake comic that I recently created, and once it's gone through the final editing phase, the novel that I wrote as well. So link is in the description, please check it out, and if there's anything there that tickles your fancy, help us out by making a purchase. Anyway, let's get on with the update. This is going to be unscripted. I've got quite a bit to talk about and I figured it'd be easier just to do it this way rather than spend ages writing a script and then memorising a script and yada yada. I'm also going to break this up into a different format than before. Basically, as a filmmaker, I kind of find myself working in 4 different brackets. Those brackets being writing, storyboarding, filming, and then editing, with a kind of a 5th bracket being the release. So I'm going to run you through the brackets that I've been doing, talking about bits and pieces as we go on. So the first bracket is going to be writing. What have I been writing of late? Well, I think we'll start with what most people are probably the most interested in, which is Silent Hill Lazarus. So I believe in a previous update I mentioned that I had wrote 3 episodes so far of the 12 I plan to make for Silent Hill Lazarus. And that was true up until probably a couple of months ago, where I've had to kind of rewrite episode 2 and episode 3. The reason for this is one of the actresses who is going to be in Silent Hill Lazarus has recently become a mother. So that has added an additional delay to getting her into the studio. It looks like I'll probably be pushing back her filming into like 2023. I didn't want to delay the project anymore. COVID had already delayed enough as it was. So I have rewrote episode 2 and episode 3 to cater for her then appearing in episode 4. The idea with Lazarus, much like with how I've been doing Splatterhouse, is that there'll be an episode released every year. So episode 1 is pretty much the same. I have altered the ending of episode 1 to bring in a new character. But episode 2 and episode 3 have been completely rewritten, with what would have been the beginning of episode 2 now being the ending of episode 3. And then episode 2 and 3 follow a new story arc. And that story arc is a cut element from Silent Hill Requiem. Now, when I was writing Requiem, there was I think in the end I had 4 drafts of Silent Hill Requiem that we went through until I ended on the final draft, which was what became the movie. And in those drafts were various different ideas, which got dropped along the way. Mostly dropped because they didn't add anything to the overall story of Requiem, but I kept them on the back burner because they were still good ideas. And one of those ideas was the inclusion of Lisa Garland. Now, originally, she was going to appear in Requiem during the Woodside apartment scene. Spoilers are ahead for anyone who hasn't watched Requiem yet. Just thought I'd put that out there. And if you want to keep Requiem fresh because you're still planning on watching it, there'll be a timestamp to allow you to skip any spoilers I may now be telling you about Requiem. So in Requiem, when Cheryl gets to Woodside, she first up meets with Cynthia as she's looking at all the O rooms to find her father. They were then going to go to the next floor into room O2, and in that room they would then meet the ghost of Lisa Garland, and they'd have a sort of fatal frame like fight with her, and then they would then end up going onto the 3rd floor where they meet Henry. But I cut the Lisa Garland scene for time mostly, and also it didn't really add anything extra to Requiem. It's not that Cynthia has any connections to Lisa, only Cheryl does. So in rewriting episode 2 and 3 of Lazarus, I've brought this idea back. So at the start of episode 2, Cheryl goes to James and then tells him that someone's haunting Nightingale Apartments. I'm using Nightingale Apartments as that is where Lisa lives in Shattered Memories, so I'm kind of merging Shattered Memories and Silent Hill together in that aspect. I did that in Requiem as well, with using the psychiatrist version of Dr. Kaufman rather than just standard Dr. Kaufman. So now episode 2 and episode 3 follow James and Cheryl as they have to deal with the ghost of Lisa Garland in Nightingale Apartments, which will then lead us into the end of episode 3 where Jessica appears, and then everything goes on as it did prior to me having to do this rewrite. And I recently read through the new episode 2 with AJ, the gaming muse, who is come on board as the consultant for the project again, as she did with Requiem, and she's happy with what I've wrote. So that is now the new episode 2, and I am currently writing episode 3. And by sort of chance and luck, I now also have episodes 4 and episodes 5 kind of wrote, because they would have originally been episode 2 and episode 3, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's pretty much the writing side of Silent Hill Lazarus that I've been doing since last time we spoke. Another thing that I've been kind of writing on and off is another little idea for, it might be a short film, it might be a proof of concept. It's just this, I recently watched the Netflix movie Kate. Now it has its problems, particularly being the one of Japanese through a foreigner's eyes kind of problem, you know, the whole Neo Kitty nonsense, as I like to put it. But overall I found the movie quite enjoyable, which I guess hell is frozen over, me enjoying something from Netflix. But also I saw this new game, well that's not new, it's new to me, called Life on Earth. It's an MSX game made by a Spanish games development company called Kai Magazine. The story basically goes, they've got access to a spaceborne virus, no, they've got access to a virus from Mars, and then all the scientists get infected by it, including the character that you play. So she blows up the laboratory because the virus turns people into mutants, because she's infected as well, but it seems to be slower burning on her because she's got plot armor. And then you've got to get to where the only other sample of the virus is to destroy it before it infects the entire world. I like this idea of a protagonist with no hope. You know, she's dead. She's already dead. There's no saving this character, but she's still going to try and do one last good thing before she dies. So I am playing with these concepts in writing it'll probably be a short film, or I might make it like a little trailer instead, rather than it being a proof of concept. But you know, it depends on how well it comes out. But yeah, so I'm playing with that idea in terms of writing, and that's something else I'm writing at the moment, on and off. And that pretty much ends up our bracket of writing. So, what have I been storyboarding? Well, I have just started storyboarding Silent Hill Lazarus. So that is quick and dirty what I've been storyboarding of late. Okay, so what have I been filming of late? Well, of course, COVID massively delayed me by basically a year. I mean, it mucked up everyone, but it delayed me for a year. So things that should have already been filmed only got filmed this year, which being all of Olwen's parts for TLE. So that's all been filmed, and that's good. And then I've got all the other actors to get in to the studio to film as well, but that's going to happen next year. I'm not going to worry about that this year. There's no time frame on TLE, so you know, I can work on that at my leisure. I want to start filming Silent Hill Lazarus next month, with a hope to have all the filming of episode 1 done by the end of March next year. So once I've got that all filmed, I can then start editing, with hope to have episode 1 ready for later in the year. Also, I'm still waiting to hear back, but I'm trying to get Olwen into the studio around April next year so that we can film our Tomb Raider proof of concept, and also this idea I was talking about in the writing section about the alien virus idea. I want to have that and film that next year as well. In regards to Tomb Raider, I have had a Tomb Raider idea burning a hole in my pocket for about 5 years now. I wrote it ages ago, storyboarded it, and then we were all planning on filming it, and then Silent Hill Requiem got funded, so everything else got kind of put to one side. But I recently put up a post on Instagram asking if people would be interested in a Zenithfilms Tomb Raider sort of thing, and there was a positive reaction to that. So hopefully I can get Olwyn in the studio at the beginning of next year and we can film it. It's already been storyboarded, it's just, ready to go, as it were. And that pretty much wraps up what I've been filming since last we spoke. So what have I been editing? I have been editing episode. I have created a intro for episode and I have started on the opening scene. And that's pretty much it. Something else I want to get on to editing to have finished by at least the beginning of next year is my Syndicate Wars short film, which again has been burning a hole in my pocket for about 6-7 years now. Filmed it ages ago and I've edited some of it, but again, it's another one of those projects that doesn't have a time frame. It's just something that I want to make because I'm a big fan of Syndicate Wars. And then the other thing I want to get edited, which again has all been filmed, is our little short film / trailer / proof of concept, because that's what they all are, for Carmen Sandiego. This is a project I'm doing for Olwyn. It turns out that as a child, Olwyn really enjoyed playing Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And after we had this conversation, I just happened to walk into a shop and there was Carmen Sandiego's jacket just staring right back at me. So I was like, well, that's Providence. So I bought it, and then I wrote a small concept piece called Where in the Multiverse is Carmen Sandiego? And we've all filmed that, and I just need to get down and edit it. It will look like a trailer, but I might use it as a proof of concept for maybe another web series later down the line, or maybe a film. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty much doing it as a way to say thank you to Olwyn for all the things she's done for me, because she's done a lot of work for me and a lot of it has been unpaid. I mean, she gets paid now because I have a Patreon, but back in the day she did a lot of stuff for me for free, so I wanted to do this for her. And I want to get on to editing that and have that finished by at least first quarter next year. And that pretty much wraps up the 4 brackets of the filmmaking adventures of Gareth Morgan and Zenithfilms. All that leaves is releases, and hopefully by now most of you have seen, or at least know, that part 3 of Splatterhouse Jennifer Smells of Rot was released Halloween just gone. If you didn't know about that, now you do, so please go check that out. Leave a like, leave a comment, share it about, do all those wonderful things that the YouTube algorithms enjoy. And you also may notice that I've started streaming again. I'm randomly streaming at random times, just video games that I've had on my hard drive for just, sat on there dormant, and it's like, I need the space back, so let's play this game, and then if it's any good, I might finish it. If it's janky as all hell, here's an episode of Zenithfilms Play, but now this game's being uninstalled. And that pretty much brings this update to a close, so all that leaves me to do is to thank my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. As always, a massive thanks goes out to Amy Ballett, Gideon Martinez, Sylvia Garcia, Daniel Hughes, Jason S. Perry, Mike Mikvek. Thank you for your continued support of Zenithfilms. It means the world to me and my team. Without you, this would be a hell of a lot more difficult. That is this Christmas edition of the Zenith Update to a close. I hope this finds you well and safe, and as always, all the best.